Hi guys, it's Laura here. It's a beautiful new day and it's time for another episode of how to become a coloring book illustrator. So strap in and let's get started. Hello everyone! Alright, let's get going on the next episode of how to become a coloring book illustrator. So the last episode we started out with sort of like the prep or the initial stages of this process. I just want to reiterate though that those little bits, they may not seem very important, but they are. Without those little bits to get you going, you're going to find this process to be very difficult. So you need to understand that those initial stages are very important to get you started. If you missed the last episode, I will link it down in the description below, so you can go ahead and check it out. Also, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And that way you won't miss any future episodes. So getting right on into it, we have step number 6, which is do the work. So there's not much I can say other than it's a lot of work. No, I'm just kidding. I do have a lot to say about this actually. So if you're going to be drawing in a digital media, then go ahead and draw in that digital media. If you're going to be drawing traditionally with pen and ink or pencil like I do, then you're going to also want to work in whatever media you want the end result to be in. I will say that in order to complete a 42-page book, I had to finish 76 different illustrations. The reason why is not every single drawing I ever do is a good one. If you have a better ratio, then kudos to you, and that's awesome, but for me, I needed to produce a lot more drawings than actually made the book. This is okay. If you're the same way, just make sure to keep that in mind, that you're going to have to do a lot more work in order to get a nice finished product. And I've heard some people, do 4 times the amount of work in order to get a book. So, it's all, however many drawings you need to get to have the final book finished. That is okay. It's not a contest. Every artist is a little different, so I'm going to say, take my advice and then apply it to your own personal situation. Okay, so another bit about doing the work. So if you are drawing digitally, you want to work at 300 dpi at the size that you actually want your colorist to draw at. I have done a couple of pages digitally, although I prefer traditional. I will say that another thing with digital is don't forget to print out your pages every once in a while and see if they'll be easy to color. Sometimes it's hard to lose track of the scale when you're doing something digitally because you can zoom in and out. But do remember that the colorist needs a little bit of room to get in those little details. So, yeah, print stuff off, take a look at them, make sure that they're colorable, if you will. So if you're a traditional artist, I would say work at the size that you want your colorist to color at. Again, for the same reason, you want the liner to be just the right amount of detail. You don't want it to be too small or too big. And also, I find it just makes it easier, when you go to scan it in later. It's all the size that you need it to be. Choosing the size of the book at this point is pretty important. Another thing to mention while you're working is colorists don't like doing the very tight center of the book unless there's a double page spread. I avoided double page spreads because I knew that I wanted to do a spiral bound book, and I felt that a double page spread on a spiral binding would be very difficult to manage. However, it all depends on the type of artwork you do. If you do a lot of double page spreads, then you're going to have a lot more to consider here. I did not go that route. I felt that I would simplify the process for myself, so I did single pages only. I designed the book so that it would be one-sided, and so that way it would just be very simple to print. So all of these things you have to keep in mind. When you're preparing a single page for printing, just make sure that it isn't too close to the binding of the book. Another thing is, if you're doing pages which are full pages, which don't sort of float in the center, I would recommend putting a border. This is something that I didn't learn until later on, but that I wish somebody had said to me, because giving a border or a defining edge to your artwork really does help the colorist not feel like they have to go right into the crevice or the crack of the book. So yeah, just some little tips for you as you're drawing. I find that pages that have frames or well-defined borders tend to get colored more than those that don't. That's just me and my work and what I've found. It could be different for other artists, of course. But yeah, so that's why you see now more often you will find a frame or a border for my work. And that's why. So now let's move in. Now that you've got all these pages, you've got tons and tons of work, let's move into step number 7, which is self-edit. So self-editing is a difficult process. I will admit that sometimes artists are not the best at this, so if you do struggle with this, that's okay. What I would suggest is getting a friend or a family member who is good at critiquing and editing to take a look at your work and tell you what should be removed and what should stay. But for me, I just laid all of my work out in front of me, so this meant putting all of my work all over the floor and the walls, and just taking a look at everything and asking myself, do I want to color this? Do I want to take it to a finished product? If the answer was no, then I put it aside and took it out of the book. And so that was my simple way to edit. If you are not a colorist, or you aren't really interested in coloring your own work, then this might be a more difficult process for you. But I guess the question you could ask yourself is, would I take this to a final piece? Like, if you're a painter, would I take this to a finished painting? Basically, is the design worthy of being worked on by another person? If you find yourself saying yes, then keep it in the book. If you're not sure, then I would put it aside and come up with another page, because really you have to be wildly excited about the book that you're creating, or nobody else will be. So that's a really important. Self-editing, I think, is one of the most important steps to creating this book, making it really, really high quality. Okay, so the next two steps kind of come hand in hand. You can do these in a little bit of a separate order if you like, but step number 8 is create a cover and a page order. So for creating a cover, what this meant for me was coloring a whole bunch of my pages, which was really exciting. So I colored a whole bunch of pages. What I did for this process is I scanned in the pages that were my favorite. I printed them out. I used Staples for that. I do not have a printer at home. So I went to Staples, I got them printed, and then I started coloring my own work, and that was so fun. Like seeing them all on a printed coloring page and starting to print them and then starting to color them. This is when the book started to become real to me. It was starting to come together. It was, you know, I don't know, it was just really exciting. And this is also the point at which I started creating a page order. So I would decide, okay, well this will be the first page, this will be the second page, and so forth. And this sort of goes hand in hand. So I'm going to talk about step number 9, which is digitizing and preparing your artwork. So for this stage, for me it involves scanning. What I would do is I have a very old scanner. So it's just an HP ScanJet 4070 PhotoSmart scanner. So that's the scanner I have. It doesn't matter what scanner you buy, as long as it will scan up to 300 DPI, and it will fit the page, the entire page of your coloring book artwork on one scan. For me, this one is just one I have had for a long time. It's like it's a machine. It's churned out so many scans over the course of the time I've had it. So I'm just lucky I had it already. But yeah, you don't have to buy an expensive scanner. It just has to fit your pages and do 300 DPI, and that is beautiful. For digitizing, what I do is I scan it into Photoshop. I make sure that it's not too bright or too dark, so when I'm going through the scanning process, I hit that preview button to check and see if the scan is too bright. For my scanner, I tend to actually have to set the settings so that it's slightly darker and then just brighten it up a little bit in Photoshop. But it all depends on your personal scanner. If you do need help with a specific scanner or software, please just ask questions in the comments below. I'm really happy to help you guys out, but I do require specific questions. So if you're talking about a scanner, please include the make and model number. If you're talking about your editing software, please let me know what software you're using, so that way I can help you out with specific answers. So yeah, what I did is I scanned each page in, and I made sure that the white of the paper was white and that the darks of my drawing were dark, and then I saved it out as a PDF, and that's it. It's a pretty simple process. I saved them into a folder, and that made them ready to be printed by a copy shop. So once I had them all scanned in, and this process does take a long time, just letting you know, please give yourself enough time to scan each page. You wouldn't think that it takes a long time, but it will. And then once you have all your pages digitized, you can either create the page order in your computer, or you can create the page order like I did, just by having the pages in front of you and shuffling them around. In either situation, number 8, create a cover and page order, kind of goes hand in hand with number 9, which is digitizing and preparing it. So this process is sort of organic. You'll be drawing a page, and then maybe you'll scan it in right away, or maybe you'll draw all your pages first and then scan them all in. However you want to work is okay with me, so long as you get them all in there somehow. Yeah, so this is pretty much it for this episode. I'm really excited to talk about the publishing stuff in the next episode, so stay tuned for that. But for the time being, I'm sure you'll be very busy drawing your heart out. Alright,
Alright, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was useful to you. If it was, please give a thumbs up. That helps me so much. And if you want to see more of these videos, I'll be putting more out soon. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell notification button to get my notifications. And as always, I hope that you have a wonderful, magical time drawing.